Finishes Spurs 1, Nottingham Forest 2. Obviously a huge victory for Forest, given what happened around them at the weekend. That victory then puts them back in a Champions League spot, lifts them up to third in the table with just 5 matches remaining. They're joined by Newcastle and Manchester City, Chelsea sitting in 6th, Aston Villa 7th. Meanwhile, Spurs have lost 18 league games this season. They sit 16th in the table. They'll be thanking God for Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton. Right then, more on this. Julien's here. Mario joins us as well.
You okay?
You could start, Mario, by saying, oh, good fight by Spurs. You know, the second half, if it wasn't for Sells, they would have maybe won this game or got something from this game. But given what Spurs have been this season, what's the point?
You can also say you watch two teams, one where the manager knows what his ability is in his team, and the other one you can watch what he is trying to achieve something that is not in his team. So, and when I watch Spurs, it's like the things that they're trying to do, it's not like, you know, like the creative side, the things that they try to open up, how they open up. I don't think his team has the ingredients for that. And when you watch Forest, even the 2 goals that they scored, and we could say like, oh, anything could happen. But the way they scored the goals, it was like, okay, Kulusevski, he's waiting to, he's standing on the line, and instead of like marking the man, he's looking to hit him on the break. Okay, that's one. And the second goal, the goalkeeper comes out. It's after a while, too many things happening to them. And I think it gets too easy to play against them, and it never should have been like that.
I'd give up if I was a Spurs fan. Just like for today's game, you're looking at, I know what's going to happen. We're going to have most of the ball, won't do much with it. Forest will get a couple of goals, we won't be able to respond, that's that.
But it was supposed to be different given the success in Europa League. That was supposed to be uptick.
Tell you what, the Europa League stopped flying a great flag of quality with United and Spurs.
I know. Hey, look, I'm trying, Spurs. I'm trying. It was supposed to be I suppose, a momentum shift, a change in the feeling of Spurs, given that they had success in Europa League. And then Spurs showed up, and then the same story happened. And to your point, they seem to have a lot of success down on the flanks, right? It seemed like, okay, Odegaard is doing well over there on the right-hand side. Matistel is active on the left-hand side. Kulusevski is active as well. Pedro Porro is always an option, and now down the right. And it all amounted to having success in the flanks, which then meant that they were going to cross the ball over, and Nottingham Forest were there to go, yeah, I'll clear this, I'll clear that, I'll clear that one too. And up until Richarlison started getting more active inside the 18-yard box and winning a couple of headers, it just felt like the whole night was going to be Nottingham Forest clearing the ball out and trying to go on the counter and perhaps catch a goal. Once they went up early, 2-0, you knew exactly what the game was going to be all about, and Spurs did not prove that they could be creative nor dynamic enough in the attack to make a difference.
But it takes 2 to tangle. Fair play to Forest, obviously, given what happened this weekend, given their run-in coming into this tie. We were talking about blitz, we were talking about falling off cliffs, but they managed to get themselves a big win today.
They got these 3 points, and if you're in desperate need of 3 points, by all appearances, Spurs is a perfect team to come up against. And credit to Nottingham Forest. Forest have set their stall out. We know who they are. They've shown who they are all season long. They needed to turn results around. And you come up against a Spurs team where I feel as though we're having the same conversations about Spurs that we were having about Manchester United a few days ago. That it's all about the Europa League. The league, what's the big difference between finishing 15th or 16th and 14th or 13th? None really to either of these two. So you understand if their energies, if their focus is on the Europa League. So that kind of takes care of itself. But for long spells, and what you haven't seen from Forest for a lot of the season, when they get themselves in front, they're difficult to break down. I thought Spurs kind of shot themselves in the foot. Richarlison had a couple of really good chances in the first half. Tell had a really good chance in the first half. And then Sells easily was the better of the 2 goalkeepers over the course of 90 minutes. So this quite easily could have gone a different way for Nottingham Forest in a game that really Spurs aren't that invested in. But you get the 3 points, you keep yourself in the hunt for that top 5. That's a big takeaway here. But I think Forest have not proven themselves as difficult to beat as they were earlier in the season.
Jules, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think there's still a question mark over Forest and their ability to see this one out and to finish in the top 5, because as we saw today, I mean, today they wrote their luck, let's be honest. They scored 2 goals. We saw the expected goals stats of 0.6. They scored 2 goals of that. They conceded so many chances. Really, Spurs should have scored more than the only one that they scored. And that this sums up well the two teams so far this season. But for Forest, I know it's a win. It's a big win. They go from 7th to 3rd or 6th to 3rd or something like that. I think I agree with Shaka. Defensively, they're not as strong as they used to be. And going forward, they are still overachieving. And they've overachieved through the whole season. Their expected goals compared to the goals they scored is just massive. And I think that's probably not sustainable, even between now and the end of the season.
Well, let's take a look. Oh, I was going to go to everyone's top 5 predictions.
All right, then go ahead, Dan. You're leading this.
Okay, here we go then. Let's take a look at everybody's top 5 predictions. Dun, dun, dun. Mario has Forest there. Ali has them there just. Jules doesn't have Forest in the top 5. Neither does Shaka.
Well,
explain why.
Well, for all the reasons that I just articulated, I just feel Forest are on the slide. There's only 3 points between Forest and Villa right now, as you said. My concern for Villa, or if I had concern for Villa, was how would they respond to being out of the Champions League. You see the result this weekend against Newcastle, and Villa, you could then argue, are playing some of the best football that we've seen against a Newcastle team that were banging form. So I think that 3 points as we sit right now between Villa and Forest is easily doable, kind of given, again, Villa's performance and result against an informed Newcastle, and Forest kind of hanging on against a Spurs team who are only concerned about the Europa League. So I feel that while today was a welcome relief, Forest will continue to slide.
Mario, you say Shaka's talking nonsense because you've got Forest finishing 3rd.
Yeah, you know why? Because I think when we come to the end of the season, what I saw today, I felt like if the energy doesn't drop for them, I think they can handle it to carry it all the way. But of course, the big question mark comes like, hey, how are you going to bounce back? You understand, in the sense of like the players are on the bench that come on and still have the energy and can change things around. For the other teams, like what they said about Villa, yeah, okay, you know, that is one of the teams that's in the up. And it becomes a question mark because Newcastle could be in there, but I don't know if the balance is there. Especially, we cannot underestimate the situation when your coach is not there. When a coach is not there, and even if the assistant takes over, it doesn't matter. I think that will be a tricky one for them. So that's why I know Shaka, that's his team. I felt bad as well to take mine out, but I allow Shaka to have his team in.
Yeah, of course, what's interesting, what happened this weekend, Newcastle on the losing side. Meanwhile, we saw Aston Villa win, Manchester City win, Nottingham Forest win, and Chelsea won. Chelsea, of course, leaving it late to win against Fulham. Yet you listen to their manager and don't you dare try and get excited or have any hopes of finishing in the Champions League because, look, no one expected us to do that. Here he is.
How important was that Pedro Neto goal, and how much does that change the outlook of the season when you compete for Champions League football?
Personally, the goal from Pedro doesn't change my view from the season. I said 3-4 days ago, and I will repeat, Chelsea the last 2 years never been in Champions League spot, and this season we spent all season there. So today win doesn't change my view. It's already a good season and can become very good if we finish Champions League spot, no doubt. But for sure today was an important win because first of all it's a derby. Second, give us the chance to be there.
What a miserable man, Mario. He should be Scottish.
No, because when the guys are back here, we know we're not going to be like that. But listen, for him to say that, I don't agree, of course. You understand? I feel like I know he wants to take the pressure away because most of the coaches do that, right? They take the pressure away from the players and they put it on their own. But I feel like sometimes when he talks, when they were second, he was like, oh no, this is not. No, I thought that was a little bit too much for me. You understand? Now he's in the situation, of course, he knows his team is not performing. They win that game, but it wasn't like I was watching a game where I felt like, okay, he did one great thing. I think the 2 substitutes that he had, especially the young kid, you understand, just comes on, took the strike, okay, great goal, that he changed the game a little bit. But away from that, I feel like Because first he had the fans, then he doesn't give them no motivation. You need to motivate those people because you need them behind you. So I hope he's going to understand that, because the more he's been critical about the situation, the harder it's going to become to have your team being motivated when they come on the pitch. Because I think that is going to be one of the key things for Chelsea to get it over the line. I said in the beginning of the season, Champions League is very important. Why? Because you invest so much financial capital into a team and then you don't get Champions League. That is a big downer.
What's wrong with him, Jules?
It's a good question, because I agree with Mario. He's lying, obviously, by saying that this goal doesn't change anything. He knows that even if he's doing better than the last two coaches before him, which is a fact, it's true, if they miss out on top 5 after having been in the top 5 through the whole season pretty much, it's not a good end of the season. And I think he also knows the club needs that money massively. And yet, they might be ahead of schedule. This is year 1 of Maresca's project. They might be ahead of where they thought they might be. Maybe, that's not a problem. But when you've been in the top 5 for the whole season, if you miss out, it's a bad end of the season, really. And I think he's struggling to trying to find an answer and a solution to the deeper form of this team, because, again, they were not good, especially in that first half against Fulham. They haven't been good for a while now. What's happening with Cole Palmer? What's happening with Nico Jackson? Okay, he's coming back from an injury, but what we've seen so far since he returned is the bad Nico, not the good Nico. Defensively, I mean, everywhere there's tension between him and the fans. On the Neto goal on Sunday, he turns around to his own fans, kind of trolling them for the last-minute win. This is not. The atmosphere is quite toxic, and this is not good. When, as we saw the schedule, it's probably the toughest schedule of all those teams that we're talking about right now. Look at the team that they're facing between now and the end of the season. It's not going to be easy for them, especially in the current form that they have.